Okay. Welcome to our monthly meeting of Northwest Weld United Indivisible. It's not a great turnout tonight, as you can see, but the information is going to be fabulous, and we're recording it, or we're live streaming it. So it's on Facebook in case anyone is home watching it, and then it'll be on YouTube after that. So, and we have some more people coming. Okay. Flag them over this way. So we have some guests today. First of all, Delane is here. If you haven't met Delane, she started coming to coffee hour with her husband Mike on Saturday mornings, and they've been regulars at coffee hour, and they've brought a lot of tech savviness and fun to our coffee hour, and they're also very well versed in the LGBTQ community and the trans community. And one of the big issues this election season coming up in November is that there are some things that people have gotten on the ballots or are trying to get on the ballots that would be very harmful to the trans community. Things that on the surface look fine, but if you think about the details of it, they really are devastating to the trans community. And so we asked Delane if she could get some people who could talk. And so she's here tonight. And I don't know all the people, but this is Warren, and Warren is her son. And then there's another person here.
Nia and Ash are here from Rocky Mountain Equality.
Okay.
And they're going to be.
Thank you. Yeah, of course.
Nia and Ash are here from Rocky Mountain Equality, and they're going to be telling us about the specific initiatives on the ballot, and also about another one having to do with ICE. So
I'm going to turn it over to you. And then at the end, we have a couple other announcements about what's coming up, but this is really important.
do you both want?
Oh, we have cookies.
Do you both want a
sure.
microphone?
There we go. No, we don't have to share. Are you in frame?
Oh, sorry. I am probably not in frame. Amazing. Yeah, I can kick us off.
Please.
Maybe we do some introductions first. But my name is Ash Neufeld. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm the Northern Colorado Regional Lead for Rocky Mountain Equality. Our organization, thank you, Mia. Our organization used to be known as Out Boulder County. And about 3 years ago, we expanded into Northern Colorado. And I am a Fort Collins resident. I have been ever since I moved to Colorado about 4 years ago. And they hired me on to really help with that expansion. So a lot of our focus has been in Fort Collins. We're trying to get more into Weld, making connections in Greeley. And so it's very fabulous to be here and to be making more connections with you all here in Severance. Yeah.
I'm Nia. I use she, her pronouns. And I am the campaign manager for our Hands Off campaign. That's the campaign we've got for the ballot measures. So I'll get to tell you a lot more about all of those and hopefully answer all your questions you have.
Amazing. Nia's going to do most of the talking tonight, but I have been working on my elevator pitch.
Pitch, speech,
Well,
pitch.
Listen, we're still workshopping apparently. Yeah, but just wanted to talk about the importance of this. Particularly, I am a trans woman. I was actually looking through this document or this anthology that a great aunt of mine put together, where she cataloged just like things that my cousins and I would say or we would do. It's called Kid Sayings. It's very cute. And I remembered this distinct thing that she wrote in it that I used to be so ashamed of, but I asked my sister to grab a copy of it last time that she was home in Kansas from my folks' house, and she was able to photocopy it for me. But it's the first evidence, really, that I was trans, and it's us putting on a Christmas pageant for our family, and my great aunt is like putting me in like a white dress shirt, and I'm insisting on also wearing a skirt as well. And I dance apparently, and really making full use of the skirt, and apparently stole the show, which I was happy about.
Obviously.
But I came from, I come from a hyper-religious, evangelical, conservative context too. So in that space, that passage was used to really shame me in a lot of ways. And now it's this like source of joy. And the most important thing too is that she time stamped this too. And I was 2.5 at this point.
I mean,
Exactly, Susie, which is why this like matters to me, even as a trans adult who started transitioning well into her adulthood. I think this really matters. And I think this matters to lots of trans people who weren't given the opportunity to be ourselves or supported. And in Colorado, we've done a lovely job. And I'll use this to segue into talking about the ballot initiatives at a very high level. We do a good job in terms of policy and law of really protecting trans people and trans youth, so much so that we're facing 3 ballot initiatives. One is anti-immigrant, essentially requiring law enforcement to cooperate with ICE. And then there's 2 anti-trans initiatives. One is focused on prohibiting trans youth from participating in sports, and this can go through the collegiate level. And then also, the second anti-trans one is restricting certain surgical gender-affirming procedures for youth as well. These are really unpopular in our legislature. These same ideas, concepts have been proposed as bills, and they die very early on all the time. So instead of getting the message, the same people who've been trying to push these through the legislature gathered signatures to have them on our ballot. Thankfully, this is Colorado. We know our values for freedom and bodily autonomy. And we have the evidence of that, not just based on who we've elected into our legislature. But I think we can certainly 100% defeat these ballot initiatives. But for me, because these are so unpopular and these are so against our values, and because our ballots are always so long here in Colorado, I'm worried that this is going to sneak up on people. They're not going to necessarily know that this is coming. I can't remember who mentioned this, but the way they've worded some of these things, like on the face of it, look like this is about equity when it really isn't. So a lot of what we're trying to do with the Hands Off Colorado campaign is just get the word out about it. And I say that we're asking people to do 3 things as a campaign. We are asking people to make a plan to vote no if you are eligible and can vote.
That's the other thing is you don't know if voting no means no or voting no means
Mhm.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. No, fully. And on these 3 ballot initiatives, it is no on all 3. And then the last thing too is to just get the word out about it. Every single chance you can get, giving people flyers, just letting people know. Sometimes I do this thing just to get more practice in. So it's like, Ash, how are you doing? I'm like, you know what? Like on the whole, I'm doing well, but like, have y'all heard about these ballot like initiatives? Like, it just like pisses me off that people like hate immigrants and hate trans youth and they're trying to interfere in people's lives. And people are like, I have not heard about these. I'm like, well, they're going to be on our ballot this November. And so getting the word out is really important for this and then being able to succeed, which I think is 100% possible. We've got this.
Fabulous. Thanks, Ash.
Of course.
How many of you knew about these ballot measures before today? A little bit? You knew they existed? Okay. And it's totally new for some of you. That's great. So I'm going to give you a little bit more of the details on what's actually in these measures so that you can do exactly what Ash was saying, go out and talk to people. And as she said, like, this has been a long time coming. We've been watching them put forth these bills. So we've also been polling and testing and checking what messaging works with voters. So I'm going to reiterate some of that for you as well, so you know what really hits at the core if you're out just talking to the general public and not one of your fabulous Indivisible members who kind of gets it. So as Ash said, the first one is about ICE. So right now in Colorado, we have really nice firewalls so that our law enforcement can be separate from ICE and immigration proceedings. So if somebody is arrested, convicted, their status as an immigrant does not have to come into play. This law, if it were to be passed on our ballot, would supersede that. It would require every local law enforcement to work directly with immigration and customs enforcement at the point at which somebody is charged. Not convicted, charged, right? So not only does this throw due process out the window, but now we've got all of our law enforcement having to work in these spaces where they also maybe won't want to.
I was going to say, how does law enforcement feel about it?
It's very disruptive. And of course, it's also very partisan. So depending on which department you talk to, they feel very differently. Yeah. So for this, a lot of people ask us, well, you're an LGBTQ plus organization. Why are you doing immigrants? Funny enough, immigrants can also be queer.
No.
Yes. And we always feel like our freedom, our rights are also tied up with everybody else's. And so it's so important that we fight for them at the same time. We also know that LGBTQ plus organizations are often better resourced than immigrant rights organizations. So we can leverage our power, our volunteers, rooms like these to help defeat that. So that's the ICE one. Now we got the two anti-trans ones. As Ash said, we've got one that's attacking primarily trans girls in sports. And it starts at kindergarten. So we're talking about 5-year-olds being told you cannot play a sport with the gender you identify with. So this one is so challenging because it is also very multifaceted. There is no specific enforcement mechanism. So one thing that we know has started to resonate with voters is to ask, well, what does compliance look like on this? Are we asking college or elementary school sports instructors to look up skirts? Right? How are we ensuring that this could actually be enacted? When you start to get into those details, a lot of voters are like, oh, whoa, that doesn't feel right? That's gross. This isn't about freedom, right? The other thing we hear from a lot of voters, though, is, well, it's just fair, right? If somebody was assigned male at birth and now they're competing against girls, how can these girls actually compete? There are a few things we can do to break this down. First off, if we look at the data from last school year, we are talking about a total of less than 10 students in the state of Colorado. This is a law that targets a very, very small population, which again is not a Colorado value, right? Secondly, we're talking about kids really across a huge range of ages. And sports is about learning to play on teams, to build confidence, all of these things that are really, really important that we wouldn't want young people to not be able to do. So again, when we start to break it down, it's easier to really parse out the fairness concern. When we talk about fairness, any law that's targeting less than 10 people doesn't feel fair. That's pretty straightforward.
People don't know that.
Right. Exactly. Well, and we see this in the fear mongering, right? There's an attack on girls' sports right now, right? Well, no, it's not. And we've got data to show that this is a really small group. And quite frankly, probably the kids we really want involved in team sports to not feel isolated, to be able to have community built around them. Then the third one, this is the one about what you'll see on your ballot. It actually refers to surgeries for minors. And I say that that's what's on your ballot because the details is when it gets really messy. So they talk about, not wanting gender affirming surgeries for minors. But then in the ballot language, it specifically identifies podiatrists, chiropractors, like all of these roles, these medical professions that really don't have anything to do with surgery. So what does that mean? They're trying to take away medical care in general. And they really haven't defined surgery. For most young people, when we talk about gender affirming care, they're getting hormones, hormone blockers, hormone replacements, something like that. Does that mean an implant of a hormone is now considered surgery and no longer accessible? Right? So this is something that is really, really complicated. The ballot language is confusing and would probably take years in court to unravel. In the meantime, though, what, again, we know works with voters is to talk about how this decision is a really complicated one. For a child to go and get gender-affirming care, it's something that they're working with their caregivers, multiple doctors, probably psychiatrists, psychologists, right? There's a team that is going forward to say this is the best course of action. Since when do we want the government involved in those decisions? Right? Exactly. And that messaging right there actually breaks across Colorado, from rural Colorado to downtown Denver. That bodily autonomy of making sure that decision is between a family and their medical providers works best. Do you have a question there? Yeah.
I'd like to add a point
Please.
about why this matters, and you may know more about this than
Please.
I do, so feel free to correct me. But gender-affirming healthcare is also very literally suicide prevention.
Yeah.
This saves lives. So it's not just affirming gender. This has impacts that ripples throughout somebody's health and somebody's ability to survive in the landscape. So I think the discussion politically kind of gets narrowed to surgery and bodily mutilation.
Yeah.
But it's a lot bigger than that in the importance for the individual going through it.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Thank you so much for adding that. Absolutely. We also know, if you follow the news, that right now they are already chipping away at these services. We've got Children's, Denver Health, right? All of these massive institutions that are taking away this care. And we're seeing the impacts of that. At Rocky Mountain Equality, we actually set up a fund just for families when they call in and they say we need access to this, so we can help them pay for it at the few clinics where they can still get that treatment. So this bill, this ballot initiative, if it were to pass, would not just bar it, it would stop any insurance, Medicare, Medicaid for paying for it as well. So it really would make it quite impossible for young folks to get access to this. So that's the high level on the three measures, and what we know is starting to resonate with voters. The most important thing is for us to tell as many people as possible about this. We've been working in this fabulous coalition with folks across the state. They've been doing all this polling. If the vote were to be taken today, we would lose. Yeah. And it's really interesting when you start to look at the demographics. I think there's this maybe general consensus that, Colorado has really turned blue. The Dems are going to be against this. That's not the case. Some of the folks that we think of in our camp still don't understand the experience of trans folks. They maybe don't know a trans person themselves, and so they can disconnect from this measure a bit. The more we can humanize this, the more we can have folks like Ash just telling stories about how important it is to be able to live a life that's true to them is so critical. So before I answer your questions, I actually have a question for you. As we are working on this campaign, we are talking to groups like you. We're out at, we've been at a bajillion Pride events. I can't believe we're still standing right now. June has been wild. But then we're looking forward to events for the rest of the summer, just places where people gather, but especially people who are civically engaged. Where should we be up here? Where do you think we need to be talking to people, have a presence to help with these measures?
Greeley Indivisible.
Greeley Indivisible, great.
Any of the indivisible groups.
Timnath has one as well?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yes.
We'll get in with them.
But if you want like the
That is
general public, and I don't know how welcoming they would be.
Yeah.
Right. The big events are the Greeley Stampede.
Greeley Stampede, yes.
And then in Windsor, there's the Harvest Festival.
Windsor Harvest.
Weekend,
Okay.
Which is Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And it's in the park. And
Ooh.
lots of people from outside Windsor go. It's one of the biggest parades.
Oh, fabulous.
And Lauren Boebert. And they usually, yeah, Lauren.
Great. We'll make sure we're right after Lauren in the parade.
I think it's too late for you to get food. Like they have groups that get a food,
Yeah.
but I think it's probably too late, and I think it's not for you. You have to pay a fee.
That's okay.
But it's.
But we'll reach out. Yeah.
To see, because that people are walking around. One half of the park is crafts, the middle part is food, and then the other end are people who are selling you windows and roofs. Political, like not political parties, but like the town council.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
And nonprofit groups.
Fabulous.
And maybe if you were there and you had stories to tell, it might happen.
Yeah. When you say rough, you mean just, yeah.
Yeah, so those are two that I can think of.
That's perfect, though.
Many people attend.
Yeah.
There are in Windsor on Thursday nights the concert, which
Oh.
are really well attended.
Okay.
And then, there's some food trucks and things there, but there might be a way for you to set up a table.
Perfect.
At the Thursday night concerts too.
Yeah.
Well, for my business, like when we went to a trade show, we made aprons that said, ask me about Color Pocket, which is my company. But if you had asked me about,
And then you could even walk around and just see if.
Yeah.
Ask me about these bills
Mhm.
and put the
Yeah.
number
Yeah.
initiatives.
Yeah.
Because I hear what you're saying. I know people who are Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
Don't understand it.
Right.
One is a very close friend of mine and just thinks like the whole sports thing is terrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, really, it's only a small amount. And we're not talking about like college. We're not talking about professional football.
Right.
We're talking about kids playing sports. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's not about that. And I think if you're unfamiliar, if you don't know anybody who's trans, I think they just really understand.
Yeah.
And I had somebody that worked with me whose child went through the process, and it took many, many years. It wasn't, go to school one day and come home a different sex. It was a lot, as you said, like psychological and psychiatric, and the whole family was involved. And over a period of years, they transitioned.
Yeah.
And, and they're an amazing person now. You would never know that they were the opposite sex, and it's better for that person.
Yeah.
And the family has adjusted. At first, the grandparents were a little like, oh, what is this?
It's a lot to adjust to.
But I think if you know someone, it helps. And
It
I think
helps.
the stories help.
Yeah.
Where it's really okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but they just don't get it.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, I was reading some research that was talking about, during the 1980s, and especially during the AIDS epidemic, so few people knew gay people. And so it was really easy to otherize, right? This is their issue. It doesn't affect me and my community. And then as people started to know more and more gay people, and more gay people were out, it was easier to say, oh, they're just like me. They're my neighbor. Maybe marriage is okay for them. And so we're seeing a little bit of that with trans folks now, with the big caveat being that back in the 80s and 90s, it wasn't about taking away rights. It was about granting rights. Now it's about taking away rights that already exist, right? So this is a different kind of deeper attack. The more we can humanize, the more we can introduce folks to trans people, that we can show they're normal with us, right? They live down our street. They go to our same grocery stores, and nothing awful has happened. That can really help also bring down some of the anxiety around this issue, because we really want to make sure that folks understand that they can ask questions, and they can be respectful at the same time. One of the things that we're seeing through this campaign, of course, is that the attacks on trans folks are really increasing. So if you do have trans people in your life, or non-binary people, make sure you're taking care of them this election cycle. It will get worse. We know that money is coming in to help the Yes campaign, and they will continue to dehumanize trans people in that community. And we're also in this really vulnerable moment where that's already coming at the federal level, and folks are feeling scared. And so the more that we as allies and supporters can wrap around and say, you are valued, you are part of our community, you are loved, the better we're going to be. Thank you so much for all of your fabulous ideas. Laurel.
You might also want to have farmers markets.
Farmers markets, yes.
I mean, there are a number of farmers markets on Saturday mornings, other days too. But
Fabulous.
there is one here in Windsor. There's one in Severance. There's two
Golden,
or three.
They're all over.
Yeah.
Those, and then in August, late August, and late July and early August are county fairs.
Right. Yes.
So even if you can't have a booth,
But we can have some folks there.
you can have people there with T-shirt, ask me about them, and
Yes. I love that.
Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, I do want to point out, somebody was asking earlier about the no vote thing. We don't know the ballot numbers yet. We won't know those till probably late August. At that point, we will be hands off Colorado, vote no on these three numbers. So it'll be really clear. Right now we're using, just kind of simple language that explains them because we don't know the numbers yet. It's a whole Secretary of State process to get that. If you do want to be more involved, we of course have ways to volunteer to sign up. Once you scan that, you will then be invited to attend an upcoming volunteer training where we'll go a little bit more in depth into the language and how we're messaging, as well as our campaign plan. What are we doing from now through November 3rd to help defeat these? Yes.
Are you going to have yard signs?
Yes, we're going to have yard signs. And we can make sure. We can make sure to do a roundup here in Severance and get it to all y'all. We will also have canvassing and phone banking and text banking, a lot of things that can be done remotely. We'll probably do postcard writing campaigns. So if your Indivisible group wants to do that, we'd love to have your support. And then also up here, we've just got these nice little guides that talk about the campaign and the initiatives. I recommend you take a few of them so you can share with others. We've got them in English and Spanish. And we've got really fabulous stickers because our comms team is fantastic and gives these to us all the time. So please grab all of those that you need. Please.
Do you have any input into how the ballot is worded?
No.
No.
It's a good question.
Because it's usually so convoluted.
Yes. Yeah, so it's a good question. The way it happens, the group that is trying to put it on the ballot has to draft up all of the language, and then it goes to the title board. And the title board says, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this. There's still a lot of legal things that are often dealt with after, but it at least says, like, this is accurate titling, as well as blue book language. So they submit that. A different group will submit the opposition blue book language. And we've had some folks who've given input into that. So there will be something that explains why to vote no. But the actual ballot language comes from the people who put it on, who paid people to collect signatures all over the state. Funny enough, they couldn't get many volunteers. Yeah, it's pretty unpopular to collect signatures for something like this. Yeah.
So who did, what is the name of that group, do you know? Or is that
What is the group called? Protect Kids Colorado. Yeah.
And this is something I like to add to thinking about, like, the role and responsibility of Northern Colorado folks. One of the key people who is on the board of Protect Kids Colorado is a person who lives in Wellington, who is like made anti-trans youth. Like, it is Erin Lee.
Yes.
Heard
Ding,
of her?
ding, ding.
So y'all like know the deal. This is a person who tried to did sue Poudre School District, failed, tried to get it. It made it all the way to be petitioned at the Supreme Court of the United States. They did not hear it. Thank goodness. But that's this additional thing too, where like this is coming out of like our region and not on my watch. How about y'all?
Yes.
I have personal experience with Erin.
So you're ready to fight. I love that.
And Kim Chambers.
Yeah.
She's been attacking Kim Chambers for years.
Yeah.
So.
That did remind me, though. I want to bring up one more thing that you'll likely see. We're expecting probably this week. So SCOTUS usually releases decisions Tuesday, Thursday. We are waiting for a decision in a case called BPJ Hecox. It's a combination of things. It doesn't matter. But assuming the Supreme Court does exactly what we expect them to do, they will allow for these trans athlete bans to go into effect. So what that means for Colorado is that if we were to pass this ballot measure, it would be considered constitutional. Again, we still have legal things we have to unravel, but look for that. It means that our fight is very, very real. Yeah. Any other questions?
There's a question.
Please, Laurel.
Just a suggestion, going
Yeah.
back to one of the things that you said, well, people's response is, well, it's not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Ask them what their definition of fair is. That's one of the hardest words in the dictionary to describe.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. What is fair?
What does fair mean to you?
I don't know. I think it means that kids can play sports. How about you?
Well, like sports are competitive.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's the nature of
Like Michael Phelps has his enormous wingspan and is like low-key a freak of nature, and he's allowed to swim. Like, who cares, girl? My God. Sorry.
And he has
I love
mental
it.
health issues too.
Right. Get him out of the pool.
I know. Or you'll catch it.
If you don't have any other questions, feel free at any point after today to reach out. We also very much want to be a resource to groups like yours. So you take some of these materials, you start having conversations with people, and you're like, oh gosh, I don't know how to respond to this. You reach out to us. We are now your resource guide. Yes.
Do we have your permission to copy your literature and post it?
Oh, of course. Absolutely. We can even send you digital versions.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
I'll be in touch.
Love that. Awesome. Yeah.
You should write it. There you go.
Are you aware that Fort Collins has an interfaith
Yes.
coalition?
Yes, we are engaged with them. They've been fabulous to work with. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, with that, then I'm going to give your meeting back to you.
Ask you a question. When you moved to Colorado, did you find it inviting and accepting, or?
I did, and I'm originally from Kansas, there until I was 26, and actually moved to Chicago for a few years. And one of the reasons I moved, which I think is a story or that's relatable to a significant portion of trans people, but it was to find gender affirming care. I had heard whispers around that it would take a year of seeing a mental health provider in Kansas to get a letter to do that. I wasn't about that. It is a years long process. And sometimes I'm like, it would be nice to wake up tomorrow and have everything done. That would be lovely. And so I moved to Chicago to start that journey. And my sister and I were fighting one another to be we wanted to live close together. She was living in Fort Collins. I was in Chicago. I'm like, you come here. And she said, absolutely not. And she's like, you come to Fort Collins. And I'm like, I visited you in Fort Collins for the last 6 years. I'm not moving to Fort Collins. I'm here living in a gay neighborhood. But it ended up happening that I did move to Fort Collins. And I have felt very welcomed here. I was surprised at how many trans people there are. And it's absolutely lovely. And I love Colorado. And I love that that's part of our values. And I think particularly in this time, it feels so nice to be in spaces where I'm like, okay, I can actually be myself here, even though there's anti-trans or antagonism towards trans people. Just feels like it's really bubbling and increasing right now. So all that to say, yes, I love Colorado.
That's good to know. Yay, Colorado.
I've got one. So I'm Delane, and this is my son Warren.
Hello.
Who is trans, and he wanted to come tonight to support me in talking to you guys, and also to answer any questions. So if any of you have never met a trans person, now you have. So, and he's going to be my tech person. So we just wanted to talk about how can we be better allies for the trans community. So these are some things that are important if you want to be an ally. What does it mean to be an ally? So the most important one is probably number 3. So we all have our privilege, but let's use that to help this group who's being attacked right now. So, yeah, well, you guys can read. I always hated that in college when the professor would read the thing. Oh, for sure. Okay. So to be an ally is to, number one, take on the struggle as your own. Number two, stand up even when you feel scared. It's important because people don't know. They're not going to know how you feel unless you say something. Number three, transfer the benefits of your privilege to those who lack it. And number four, acknowledge that while you too feel pain, the conversation is not about you. Okay, so here's some things that you can do. Number one, wear something supportive. T-shirt, I've got a button. I just saw a great shirt today that I think I'm going to have to order, and it just says, "Let them play." And so that is like perfect for this right now. Educate yourself. So how can you do that? Start following trans creators on social media. And, there's a lot of people that are saying great things, and learn more about the experience. And that's something that you can do because it's not always the trans person's responsibility to teach you. Some people are open to questions, and are okay with that. But other times, do your own research. Okay. Once you have educated yourself, inform others. So that's part of the reason I came up with the suggestion to have this topic tonight, is because I was shocked to see that Colorado had these initiatives on the ballot. I couldn't believe it, because in general, Colorado is pretty good for trans folks. And so I was like, wow, if I didn't know about this, there's probably a lot of other people who don't. So now that we know, strike up a conversation with your friends. Hey, have you heard about these terrible anti-trans initiatives that are on the ballot? And explain to them. And because, at first glance, when you look at the wording, oh, well, sure, we want to protect kids and, oh, yeah. And if you don't really look at it, you could end up voting the wrong way. And then get involved by volunteering. So I've used this QR code. It was very easy to sign up to be a volunteer. And there were lots of different categories of ways that you could volunteer. And this is a really good organization. When I talked to them at Estes Park Pride and I said, hey, do you have anybody who could speak at our meeting? They're like, yes, of course we do. And I know how busy Pride Month is. So we really want to thank you both for coming to our meeting tonight.
Happy to.
Yes. And then lastly, speak up if somebody says or posts something offensive. And so I have done some slides here. Like, here are some different ways that you can respond. Okay, so this one is short, firm, and unapologetic. Just say, that's transphobic. I'm not going to engage with that. You don't owe anyone a debate. Just shut them down. Personal and humanizing. I love a trans person, and you could also just say, I know a trans person. I love a trans person. When you say things like that, you're talking about someone I would protect with my whole heart. Love changes the tone. And values-based. I believe everyone deserves dignity and safety, including trans people. That's a value I won't compromise. This is about who you are. And if you share your values, then you might affect their values. Calm and boundary setting. I'm not okay with language that dehumanizes trans people. Let's change the subject or speak with more care. You're allowed to set boundaries. And I got all of those from a group called realmamabears.org on Facebook. They're a great one to follow to start learning about stuff. And then this one is kind of snarky, but I loved it. Instead of me explaining why I don't find transgender jokes funny, you explain why you do find them funny. Go ahead, I'll wait. So, yeah. Yep. And so, I try to do everything I can to support Warren, and love him so much. And, Warren transitioned as an adult,
Correct.
but, I care about these kids. So,
Well, and as someone who transitioned as an adult, thank you. If it had been an option for me, if I felt like I had that as an option to transition sooner, absolutely I would have done that, And so the fact that these children are self-aware and they are so brave and they are fighting to be themselves at such an early age, they're lions, and we have to support them as much as we possibly can. The one slide talking about how speak up even if you're afraid, I promise you trans people are more afraid than you are, and they're in a lot more danger than you are too. And so that is something that you can do. And another thing is that people don't really listen to trans people when we talk about our lives and we talk about our experiences, but cis people will listen to you. And so that is a superpower. That is something that you can help us with. Yes. Cis, okay. That's okay. Thank you for that question. That's a great question. So a trans person is someone who is assigned one sex at birth and then later changes to the other or another, right? It doesn't have to be binary, right? Somebody could be non-binary. Cis just means I was assigned this gender at birth and I identify with this gender and I'm comfortable living this way. Of course. Thank you for asking. Yes. Well, yes. Is there any questions that people have for a trans person? I'm here to answer them. That was a great first question. Yes.
Or if I may,
Yeah.
add on something you made about.
Yes.
Thank you so much for running this. You talked about the importance of cisgender people speaking up because other cisgender people will listen to them. One thing too that I think is important too is, and I mean this in the most wonderful of ways, I think there's an additional privilege to, or this power to, if people can see like the silver and gray in your hair.
Totally.
And you're talking. Honestly, like anytime I like walk into a space, it's this thing where just like, oh, these young people, like, all of those different things. And of course there's trans elders as well. But I think there's this really real power too of just being like, you know what, like, I've been in this world for a hot minute and I still love and I support trans people.
Yes.
And I think it helps like break people's paradigm where it's like that this is just a young person thing and not like a thing that involves the entire family, involves grandparents, great grandparents, parents, siblings, all of it. So I just wanted to add that element as well. I know I always feel heartened when I walk into a room and I'm like, there's so many people here who like care about me, and I think it even breaks my own like perceptions of things as well.
No, that was a wonderful addition, Ash. Thank you.
So I want to start out by thanking Nia and Ash by bringing up talking points that go around in this discussion. And I'd like to add one more that I've heard. And again, anyone correct me if I say anything that's inaccurate because I don't want to spread misinformation here. But one that gets talked about is detransition rates. Like Warren, you made a point about these kids who know in their hearts and are brave enough to be their authentic selves. You get these people saying that, oh, the kids don't know, they're too young, they can't possibly know that. So you have data that says that the vast majority of people who detransition do so because of social stigma, because they know they're trans, they know they're right, and they feel forced out of that. So that's where a lot of that comes from. When you hear people saying, oh, all these kids are detransitioning because they were wrong, they don't know who they are. That's not true. They're detransitioning because they're getting pressured to. They're told that they're not allowed to be their authentic selves.
Yes, that was a great addition as well. And just to build on that a little bit, a lot of what even people who go on tour all across the country and say, I'm a detransitioner, what they actually mean is that they are a desister. So there is a difference between someone who is a detransitioner and someone who is a desister. A detransitioner is somebody who did undergo some aspect of medical transition, whether that was being on hormones or having surgery, whatever. But they did medically change their body while they were identifying as trans. And a desister is someone who was only socially identifying as trans and did not undergo any medical procedures. So that's kind of another sneaky way that anti-trans people try to trick people who don't know any better, is by saying, oh, well, I lived as a transgender man or woman for 6 years, blah, 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 but this person's never been on hormones, they never had any surgery, and now they're trying to make sure that kids who are really trans can't access that stuff either. So yeah, it's pretty nasty. Thank you for adding that.
So something that I want to point out too is with the ballot initiative about health care. Right now it's kids.
Yep.
But in other states, we've seen that they're taking away adults' medical care too. And so, because they don't want any trans people to have to.
Well, yeah. And if I may.
Yep.
It's pretty miserable to be trans and not able to live as yourself. And these people know that, right? And so part of the reason that they want to block healthcare for younger people is to force these young people to go through a puberty that they don't want to go through. And then when they're finally able to start hormones, it's going to be harder for them to pass as the gender that they are, and that cruelty is a part of this policy. They want transgender people to be visually easy to identify and easy to harass. So, it really is, they hate us,
Why do you suppose that is?
I think because trans people sort of threaten their understanding of culture, their understanding of patriarchal hegemony, definitely in the evangelical Christian Christo-fascist sphere. It's very, men are in charge and women are subservient. Well, how can that be true if you grant that someone can be a man and become a woman, or be a woman and become a man? That does not gel with their worldview at all. They're diametrically opposed. So, I think that's part of it, is our very presence, our very existence kind of blows up their whole idea about how the world is supposed to work. And that's deeply threatening. So, we're just trying to exist, but the very function of us doing that, it seems like, this huge existential threat, because kind of in a way it is, we're kind of pointing out, hey, this system kind of doesn't really work. So.
I don't understand how they can feel threatened by it.
Yeah.
I don't understand the threat.
Yeah, it's
take over and make us change. Yeah.
Well, that's the goal. No. I really do want transgender for everybody. No. I'm kidding. Yes, exactly. Right. Any other questions from anybody?
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Also, if you're too shy to ask in front of the group, you can come find me later and I'll answer your questions too. Yes.
I would love it if you go back through those slides
Mm-hmm.
and those responses.
Sure.
So I can take a picture of each one of them.
Yeah.
Remember how nicely they were stated.
Okay.
I know. I was just thinking that, but I wasn't going to say it.
I'll shoot it again so it'll be on the video as well. There you go. But it's nice to have it on your phone.
Okay. Okay. Has everyone got this one? Yep. Okay, everybody's got it? All right. Okay, and now our snarky one.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. All right. So I don't know. Oh, okay. But you can have a microphone.
Before your mask. Yeah, I know, right? I did have a question about. That's not on.
Okay. I did have a question on this topic. And again, also, I don't want to spread misinformation, so correct me if I'm wrong or could be stating it differently. The access to medical care for medicines that help with the transition are hormones. And many people with gray hair, whether they are trans or cis, also need hormones for maintaining estrogen and levels as they go through menopause. And so that is the same level of medicine that everybody needs who goes through that process. And it would be easier to withdraw it from everyone because we want to penalize one group. And so that's a little bit of like our privilege standing there, but we're also affected by it.
Yes.
We can speak up for that as well.
Yes.
2 for the price of 1.
Well, yeah, thank you for that. And it's worth pointing out that the primary users of hormones in a medical setting are cis people. I mean, that's just true, right? And it's also true that, treatment that benefits trans children like puberty blockers, cis kids who are going through a precocious puberty use those medicines too. And so it's deeply unfair and cruel to allow one group of kids to use them, but to deny them to another based on something arbitrary. It is the same healthcare, but we're just unfairly denying it for one group. So, yes.
Just as an addendum, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm still a practicing pharmacist. And the paperwork and the cruelty associated with trying to deny one group something and keep it alive for another group is ridiculous and irrational, and it is truly cruel.
Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, and I refer that to states that allow the abortion pill and states that don't.
Right.
So the pharmacist, everyone can be, taken to jail for dispensing it to the wrong patient.
Right.
So here in Colorado, you always feel great because you're like, I don't have to ask what this medicine's being used for because it's none of my business.
Yep.
So the same if they start this with hormones, I cannot imagine the nightmare it's going to be.
Yeah. No, it'll be not pretty for anybody.
No.
And create a whole lot more work for people too.
And just be cruel.
Mm-hmm.
Just to be cruel.
Yep.
It really is.
All right. We all good?
Yeah. Do you want to talk?
Yes? Okay.
Sure.
Topic transition.
Are we done?
That is the end of.
Okay.
That is the end of the program feature. Now we're going to have a few announcements.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I can. I go by D, and I'm with the Northern Colorado Privacy Coalition. I spoke with many of you at the No King or the Flag Day party. But I wanted to just introduce myself to the group. I brought some more resources. The Northern Colorado Privacy Coalition formed early this year in Fort Collins, and we worked for months to get rid of flock cameras in Fort Collins. And since we've talked, we have just done it. The city council in Fort Collins voted to cancel the contract. They have stopped data collection. The cameras are still up, and we are working to confirm all of the steps that are happening with all of that. And we will advocate for putting bags over the cameras if we're not sure if they're gone. But we believe that they are no longer gathering data. So we are now expanding to other cities in Northern Colorado. We were at Loveland Pride. Thank you all for putting that on, at Rocky Mountain Equality, last weekend. And we have a big group of people in Loveland who are very interested in getting something going. Nice. So we're here expanding as well. I have some more resources. I have a little brochure about flock cameras that I did not have with me last week. Yep. And I also have ad blocking, how to protect your privacy online, because the ads aren't just annoying. They gather information about you and they sell it to other people who want it. And then also specifically about the age verification, which really relates to the LGBTQIA issues. Yep. That we've got some information on that. And I just heard today that there is a bipartisan agreement in the House on the KOSA bill, KOSA, Kids Online Safety Act. Mm-hmm. I follow the nerdy Capitol Hill politics people. So sometime in the next week, they expect to have a vote on the floor that will probably pass. And I don't know anything more about it, but we will figure it out. And we will push and we'll put out notices and call your senators, call your reps. It is just in the House, so they still have to work with the Senate.
What is the issue?
So what it does is, what the general issue is age verification. So before you access content, and this is along the line of protect the kids, is I'm 12 and I want to go on Facebook and I want to look at corn. You can't. You've told me you're 12 and I can't let you have that. So how do they know you're 12? How do they know you're not 12? They ask for your driver's license or picture of your identification, your photo, your name and your address, all of your identifying characteristics. So your private information, as much as we have to give some of that away, we really want as much of it as possible to be private. You have to give that to a third party, private company, for profit, to prove that you can access particular content.
What's the solution if you don't do that?
I do not have that answer. I do not know.
I can jump in actually on that. I'm very passionate about this topic too.
Excellent.
I'm so glad to see you here. So yeah, sort of just to build on that, there's no such thing as age verification without identity verification. That's what these laws are actually trying to do. They're trying to take away anonymity on the internet. And we've seen that in countries where they're already passing some of these laws, like Australia or in England, these third-party data systems that are gathering this data are extremely insecure and very easy to hack. And children's identities are being stolen and their lives are being ruined because of these laws. And so that is what we're risking if we pass laws like this too. I would say that the solution to that is more parent involvement in their kids' lives,
That's what we said in libraries.
Right. Yeah. Check in on what are your kids watching. Yeah.
You had a library card. Signed you up for a library card. And, people would come in and say, well, I want you not to let my child check out mystery books. And it's like, well, we don't stop them. Right. I mean, if you don't want them to check out mystery books, you have to have an agreement with your child that if they bring mystery books home,
Yep.
They've broken your trust,
Mhm.
and that's a parent-child thing, but we're not going to stop your kid from checking, and it especially happened with videos.
Yeah.
Like we don't want, and we had video games at the library, so, I don't want my child to take out video games. It's like, then that has to be your understanding. Because I don't know, this woman over here might let her kids take out video games. And so her kids come in and I tell them no, and she's going to be mad at me.
Right.
That woman says, no, they can't. I mean, there's no easy answer here, but it's all about parents having the right to supervise what their children read or watch or listen to.
I would argue that's part of your responsibility as a parent. If your child has access to the information superhighway of the internet, and there's already existing parental protections that people can do on their own computers, on their own browsers, things like that. The tools are there to solve this problem ourselves. We do not need the intervention of the state. Yeah. Sorry to derail there.
We want rights for parents and children, just like with the transitioning. Just like what they read, what they do, and they shouldn't be on Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're too young.
Yeah. Or, if the parents have a problem with that, then that's got to be a conversation that happens within that family, as opposed to at a state legislative level or nation legislative level.
And to pick up on the point that you mentioned that did not get caught is, people don't want their kids shouldn't be on Facebook if their parents don't want that. Facebook does not want to prevent that.
Yep,
Facebook wants
money.
the money. They want their identities. They want the ad revenue. They want to sell stuff. So thank you very much for that. That's great. Parental involvement, right? So we've got educational materials here. If anyone in here is interested in joining our coalition, thinking about it, we didn't end up in Fort Collins with what we hoped we would get, but we ended up with something that we hope is functional. And so what that looks like in any other city to kind of take back your privacy rights, we don't know, but we'd be happy to talk about it and try and work and look at that. We did a lot of lobbying of council. We can't do that. Most of us live in Fort Collins. We can't do that in Windsor. We can't do that in Severance. So we need local people to help us help you protect your rights and your privacy. So I'll be here for a bit. We can chat offline. I have maps of where the cameras are in Windsor and Severance.
Nice.
Took me a little long to get here because I had to drive around roundabout ways. And then we also have our primary voter guide, 3 candidates in Northern Colorado that we endorse for privacy rights, that they support our mission.
Sick.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Anything else from any other announcements, Anne?
So we just have a couple of things. There is a All of Us Honk and Wave on Saturday, the 27th, from 10 to 11:30. If you're free and you want to be there, we don't expect there's going to be, a huge crowd, and we'll be across from King Soopers by Safeway. You can park in the parking lot there, and we'll be walking along Main Street where we were for our last protest. It worked out really, really well. You can go over and get coffee. There's bathrooms in King Soopers and Safeway that you can use. And it worked out. And the police didn't seem to mind us being there. So join us if you would like to. Also, Phil Weiser is going to be at the Tavern on the 24th, and Scott Simmons, who has been working on Phil's campaign, said they have fewer than 10 people signed up. So if you're free, and you haven't voted yet, or you'd like to talk to Phil, he'll be at the Tavern in Greeley. It was recently taken over by new management. So on Wednesday, the 24th, from 12 to 1. And then, let's see, what else? Make sure to get those ballots turned in by next Tuesday. And then you can still sign up to make phone calls for Julie Gonzalez. You can still sign up for the neighbor to neighbor, but that's getting kind of short to go around and talk to your 10 neighbors. But the phone calls, there's one tomorrow night and then one Thursday night, and those will be the last to make phone calls for Julie. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, anybody online watching.
Thank you.
take cookies home. Laurel doesn't want to put them in her freezer again.